Hello again. This is just a short addition to the last video I made about tax credit scholarships. I realized that the problem here is that we're not talking about the same things. We're not talking about the bill itself because there are so many false statements being made, and we're talking about the false statements, but that doesn't help us to have a productive conversation. And so I wanted to show you in this video how to get accurate information yourself. First thing you need to do is go to nebraskalegislature.gov. That's this page. You can search for bills over here. So we're going to put 670 in there. All right, so then we get this. This is everything that's happened with this bill so far. We have the date of introduction, which committee it's in. It's in the Revenue Committee. So what you want to look at here is the introduced copy of the text. That's the only one there is so far. And so then you can just read the bill for yourself, and then you'll know what's accurate and what's not accurate, and you'll be able to discuss the actual bill. And that leads to much more productive conversations. You know, any bill has its pros and cons, and we can only really talk about it when everybody's talking about the same thing. For example, it didn't dawn on me when I first read this what the accusation is. The allegation, I believe, is that taxpayer money will be used to send rich kids to private schools. And from the first video, if you understand what a tax credit is, there's no taxpayer money involved at all. So that part wouldn't be true. But also, if you read the bill, you can know if people like the Ricketts family are eligible. So let's just go to the bill here. Of course, I recommend you read the whole thing, but I'm just going to show you, I think it's on 2. This is who's eligible for one of these tax credit scholarships. Several things that would make the Ricketts family ineligible is right here in line 7, it says you're eligible if the student's receiving an education scholarship for the first time and is A, entering kindergarten or 9th grade in a qualified school, or B, transferring from a public school at which the student was enrolled for at least one semester immediately preceding the first semester for which the student receives the education scholarships. This is not for kids who are already enrolled in private schools. This is for kids who are either starting elementary school or high school, or who are transferring from public school to private school. In addition, if you look up here in line 1, there is an income cap. The bill, you can't make more than 2 times the eligibility guidelines for reduced price meals. I believe for a family of 4, currently that's about $46,000, so $90,000. So this is clearly for low and middle income families, not for billionaires. So as you read the bill here, you can differentiate between what is actually part of the bill, what is something that we ought to discuss, and what is something that's not even included in here, and so there's no point in discussing it. And we can have an honest conversation about what's good for kids in Nebraska. And the last thing I wanted to say here, don't take my word for any of this. I think you should go and do your own research. That's always been my motto. I just need to go look at the primary sources, because I never know, from any direction what other people's biases are. And so just go straight to the source yourself. So it's pretty clear that people want us to think that these scholarships are for wealthy kids, and if we read the bill, we know that that's not true. I want to give you an example of who this really is for. So there are 2 private schools in Lincoln that are closing. There's Sacred Heart and St. Mary's. I haven't been over to Sacred Heart at all, but I've been to St. Mary's several times. It's a small school right across the street from the state capitol. They have a lot of low-income students and refugee families. I believe last year they had kids with 12 different native languages because they had so many refugees, and it's a very close-knit kind of a school. And when the parents found out that the school was closing, there was a meeting where they broke the news to them, and these parents were so distraught. There was a mother who was volunteering to make tamales every day to sell for a fundraiser for the school. They're just racking their brains. What can we do to save this school? Because these parents had chosen the school specifically because it was good for their kids. And I'm sure there are, 100 different stories from 100 different families about why this school was good for their child. But the Lincoln Journal-Star recently reported on this, and I want to point something out. This one's about Sacred Heart, and it says more than 60% of Sacred Heart students are eligible for the federal free and reduced lunch program. Because of that, tuition is $700 a year, or per student cost is about $5,500. So the parishes have been funding most of this education, but they can't do it all. We're spending in Nebraska over $12,000 a year on each student for public school. It wouldn't take that much to help these students stay at the schools that their parents have chosen for them, where they feel the most comfortable. It costs much less than sending them to district public schools. You know, it's easy to say, why should we be helping the rich kids? But that's not who this is for. This is for the children whose parents have been scraping together $700 a year for them to go to the school they want them to go to, but this won't be an option any longer for them. So I hope that Nebraskans can find it in their heart to allow private donors to help these children. I don't understand why people are trying to prevent these tax credit scholarships. People get tax credits for donating to all kinds of things. Why is it so bad for people to get a tax credit for helping low-income children go to a school that meets their needs? Thanks for paying attention to this issue. If you missed the last video where I talked about tax credit scholarships, I'll put the link below.